Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. I'm in Arizona today, but it was great being in the studio all week.
Don't worry, people. Bill and Frank holding it down. Where are
They let you in there?
Where are you?
Huh? I'm in the desert, baby. I needed some sunshine. Too much rain back there in the mid-Atlantic and the DMV.
I know.
It's rain every day, 40 days and 40 nights. Enough of that.
It's a Thursday that feels like a Friday. I'm all out of sorts right now. Hair and makeup, everything.
That's probably appropriate. The person who's there like a couple times a year, he's out of sorts all the time. Welcome to PTI. Tony couldn't make it to Thursday, so I am joined by our great friend who's always ready to roll, coming out of the pen, Mr. Frank Isola.
That's a Thursday cheer. No question about it.
It is.
No
it is.
question.
Well, you know, maybe you'll get better tomorrow. Let's start with tonight's game between the Cowboys and Giants. Both teams are 1-2, but the Giants are at least coming off a win, while the Cowboys are coming off consecutive losses. Earlier this week, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones stopped short of calling this a must-win for the boys, but Troy Aikman told us yesterday it's as close to a must-win as a Game 4 can get. Frank, what do you think?
I love the way you say Cowboys. That makes me laugh. It kind of feels like the first Bill Belichick bowl of the season between the Giants and the Cowboys. Clearly a must-win for both of them. Dallas always seems to beat the Giants. This almost goes back to the Troy Aikman era and even the Roger Staubach, Danny White era where the Giants can never win. But clearly for the Cowboys, they can't stop the run. Look what they did their last two home games, Mike. Down 19 at halftime, then down 15 just this past Sunday to Baltimore. And if you go back to what happened to them in the playoffs, they've gotten smoked 3 times at home. Now they have to go on the road.
They have.
Short week. And I'll say this about the Giants, because I know everyone focuses on the Cowboys, and rightfully so. But this could be a big moment for the Giants. Daniel Jones in primetime games is 1-12. Dak Prescott against the Giants. The Cowboys have won their last 12 times Dak Prescott has started. The Giants need a win. This is big for Brian Daboll. It's big for the quarterback, Daniel Jones. And guess what? The Giants did not play that poorly in that game against Washington. They should have beat them. And now you look at Washington, not a bad team. And the Giants' defensive line, which won the game in Cleveland, which, by the way, is the same place where Dallas, his only win came against Cleveland. I give the Giants a big-time chance. There's actually more pressure today, obviously, on the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, anybody should have a chance against the Cowboys, but I do think it helps the Cowboys, Frank, to be on the road. It helps them to get away from home, where even in Dallas, which is a long way from New York, they feel like booing if the Cowboys got down in that game, and they've been getting, as you outlined, crushed, just literally run over in the first quarter and the first few possessions of each of those 3 games you mentioned, Frank. So, yeah, I think most of the country, and I think, you know, the interest in the Cowboys, I think, is overrated, inflated by, yes, this network, which, you know, decides sometimes it's only going to talk about the Cowboys, even though people in a lot of places, like the place I am right now in the desert, don't give a damn about the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are going to get most of the attention going into this tonight and the pressure. But the Giants, as you said, they've got a lot of pressure themselves. It's inward, I believe. It's not as much national. There's not as many eyes prying with the Giants because people really don't think much of them in the first place. But there's pressure on Brian Daboll. There's 100%. No question about it. And Daniel Jones with that Monday night record, my goodness.
I know.
I mean, he just starts very often. They got a puncher's chance, Frank.
You know, it's
amazing. Got a puncher's chance.
You know, it's amazing. You look at the Cowboys. There's an amazing stat about them. You talk about how poor they've been against the run. When they line up, when they line up at least 8 guys in the box, they've given up 184 yards. Even when they're defending against the run, they can't stop anybody. So if the Giants can get the running game going, how much better will their all-world receiver, Malik Neighbors, be? But if Daniel Jones is in 3rd and long, you know who's going to have a big night? Micah Parsons in that same, not the same exact
maybe
field.
Daniel Jones should be running.
He'll look like Lawrence Taylor tonight against them. The Giants need to run the ball. That's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, that analogy's wearing thin, by the way.
Well, it's close. All right, speaking of must-wins, the White Sox are suddenly spunky. The team that's 1 loss away from setting the all-time record won for the 3rd straight time this afternoon, sweeping the Angels in Chicago. They now finish the season with 3 in Detroit. And their manager, Grady Sizemore, moved Garrett Crochet to tomorrow night, Mike, explaining, we want to throw our best guy up against this team that's fighting for a playoff spot. These are our rivals. All right, Mike, what sort of accomplishment would this be if your other team in Chicago wins out?
I'm not about to use the word accomplishment, Frank. It's not. Even if you win out, and by the way, when they tied the record, I said then, there's no chance, which must have been going on Monday's show. I said there's no chance they can win 6 straight games. They did win 4 straight games, the White Sox did in May,
right.
and they won 3 straight games earlier in September. But with these 3 straight in Detroit, and by the way, this is how you close out a schedule. You close out against a division rival. That's what you should be doing, even when you don't know where they're going to be later. So, but the White Sox started today, and they won that game. They won 7-0 over the Angels. How about the Angels, by the way? Talk about rolling over. The Angels came into this game 24 games ahead of the White Sox, and they got starched, all right, by a pitcher, by the way.
Chris Flexen.
The team shutout. Flexen is 2-15 with an ERA of 5+, and the White Sox win that game. There's pride. Good for them. Golf clap. Maybe even louder than that for the White Sox for staying in this and having pride enough to play. Accomplishment. I'm sure somebody will come up with a record for teams that have lost 120 to win 4 straight. It's a record. It'll be, breaking news on an underline, but I'm not calling it that.
All right, number one, that record belongs to the New York Mets. That was an expansion team. It's unfair that a team like your Chicago White Sox, especially in the era of free agency, could be this bad. So it's disappointing that the 62 Mets, in a lot of ways, are being removed from the record book, because here's what's going to happen. The White Sox are going to lose one more game. The last time they won 6 in a row was in May of 2022. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I do have a crazy scenario. I'll give you one with all the weather things that we've been talking about. You get Crochet going tomorrow. Then you get Burke on Saturday. Pray for rain on Sunday. Maybe you win 2 more games, and the last game of the season doesn't matter, and it gets rained out. That record,
and they don't play it.
I give them credit for playing this well and not wanting to lose 121.
I give them credit.
But it's a little hard. It also doesn't work with the White Sox. The lovable losers are the 62 Mets. The other baseball team in your town are lovable losers. It's not right if the White Sox have the record. It doesn't work that way.
Listen, when you lost 120 and maybe 123 in one season, whether you're lovable or not, you're a loser.
Well, you're a loser.
And you replace the Mets. And by the way, you know what? That would be kind of cool, because in Chicago, all of us can band together, South Side and North, to hate the damn Mets. That's how I roll personally.
Detroit is not losing.
And I hope
to
there's millions who will join me.
Not 3 in a row.
Millions.
No way.
National League wild card. That race has a big wrinkle thanks to Hurricane Helene. Speaking of rain, Frank. Baseball postponed yesterday's and today's games between the Mets and Braves, moving them to a Monday doubleheader, but only if necessary. And as of now, with the Diamondbacks winning last night, it will be necessary. As of now. Frank, where does this rescheduling leave the NL playoff race?
Yeah, it's absolute chaos. And, Mike, in our business, going back to our newspaper days, there's always a part of you that roots for chaos, and that's what you have here now. You could have a scenario where the Mets in Milwaukee, by the way, a stadium with a roof over it, just like they should do in Atlanta, just like a lot of these stadiums should have with the money these owners have. They could be in Milwaukee this weekend. They could go to Atlanta on Monday and then potentially end up, assuming they win, in San Diego for a Tuesday game. How about that for travel? And I'll give the Mets credit. Their manager, Carlos Mendoza, what can you do right now? You could be complaining about Major League Baseball. They should have figured this out. He's thinking, you know what? I can get our bullpen needs rest. Francisco Lindor, who's been out for a bunch of games, he gets an extra day's rest. So the Mets, believe it or not, in this scenario, instead of crying like I think a lot of people would have done, are approaching it the right way. So good for them, but it's going to be a little nutty. Remember, it could go Milwaukee, Atlanta, San Diego.
Yeah, Frank, I like that the movable chess piece here is Chris Sale.
Yeah.
Who apparently, won't pitch now until there's the possibility of an elimination game. Or if there's no elimination game for Atlanta, he can start game 1 of a playoff series. And that's sort of, talk about an ace. Isn't that the definition of an ace? A guy that you sort of hold at the ready to do your team's bidding in the most important game. And Sale, who's probably going to win the Cy Young Award in the National League, has certainly been that. He's been on more than one staff in his life. Maybe I thought you were going to say the last time the White Sox won 6 straight Sale was a part of it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago. But look, there is chaos. And by the way, let me go back to something you said that was insane. No baseball team should have a roof. None.
Retractable.
If you got to play all your games at night because it's cooler, what?
Retractable.
Comfortable.
Retractable.
This is sports, man. You don't, no retractable. No. None. Open air baseball stadiums.
We know the games are being played this weekend,
you know what?
Mike.
I'm not defending anything the Cheeseheads say.
Mike, if you don't have a retractable roof,
just like was done with Atlanta and the Mets.
Get the Weather Channel, like Major League Baseball, I believe, would have. Why didn't they play yesterday's game at 11 in the morning or noon? And get the game out of the way. Why'd they wait until night to call the game? And obviously tonight's game is called too. They at least could have done that and gotten one of the games out of the way, right?
Yeah, let's just hope, the storm is not too deadly. Why don't we take a moment to do that?
Sounds like guys
and take a break. But coming up, number 1 Georgia is at number 4 Alabama Saturday. We're going to ask Booger McFarland which team has been playing better.
We'll also ask him about Deion's thought that it might be easier for Travis Hunter to play both ways in the pros. And by the way, folks, people that stay in luxury suites like Michael Wilbon, they don't want the rest of us, the normal people, to be covered.
It's time to talk football with our great friend, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst, Booger McFarland. And Booger, we're going to start with college football and this latest game of the century between Georgia, number 1, of course, and Alabama, 4th ranked right now. Who's impressed you most so far from what you've seen?
Well, it's got to be Alabama, right? Like, Georgia and Kirby Smart are kind of a well-oiled machine. Like, they don't really lose unless it's to Alabama. But when you look at the Crimson Tide, you're replacing Nick Saban and everything that he has on his resume, 7 national championships. And all Kalen DeBoer has done is come in and kind of keep the status quo. And you say, Booger, what's so impressive about the status quo? Well, the status quo was what Nick Saban built. Not only has he kept the train moving, but he's added a little exuberance to it. People talk about it. It's a lot of fun at practice now. There's laughing. There's music being played. We all know when Nick Saban was there, he was kind of a hard ass. Well, guess what? Kalen DeBoer can get the same point across, but he's doing it a different way. And I think everybody there is enjoying the atmosphere. But more importantly, they're still enjoying winning. So I think it's been more impressive what Kalen DeBoer has done. And although Kirby is still Kirby, there's something new in the water in Tuscaloosa.
All right, Booger, you mentioned the head coach. If Alabama were to win, I'm not saying he's going to get a statue like Bear Bryant or Nick Saban, but what does it mean to Kalen DeBoer if he wins this game on Saturday?
Well, Frank, it means his way works. Oftentimes when you're following the man, there's a lot of scrutiny. And Kalen DeBoer came in and he was going to be scrutinized with whatever he did following Nick Saban. And as I said, he's doing things his way. He's not trying to be Saban. The field is named after Saban that he plays on, but he's doing things his own way. And I think a win against Georgia to continue the Tide's dominance of the Georgia Bulldogs just means, guess what? To steal an old country saying from a buddy of mine, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think if you're Kalen DeBoer, you know that your way works. And for him, I think at the end of the day, he's going to do it his way. And it would be good for Alabama to see a new way work, not just the Saban way, but the DeBoer way.
All right, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about Colorado and Travis Hunter. He's been incredible on both sides of the football. Deion has talked about he could do both in the NFL. There's more time between snaps. Do you agree? You would know this as well as anybody. Can Travis Hunter, you think, in the NFL, play both sides?
He can play both sides, Frank. I just don't know if he can do both as a major. Sometimes you go to college, you have a major and a minor. The major is the thing that you focus on, and the minor, you kind of dibble and dab with it. Travis Hunter could major in one of those positions. I just don't think he can major in two. I came into this season thinking he was going to be a better corner than wide receiver. But so far, he's proven me wrong. I think he's a better receiver than corner. And Deion would probably know better than anybody. Man, that's kind of disrespectful to these professional guys to say you can come in and do both at a high level. I think there will be a target on his back. And I think some professional guys will probably be taken aback a little bit by a young guy coming in saying he can do my job and he can go do your job at the highest level. So he's a phenomenal player. I think he's going to be a top 2 or 3 pick. But I think for him to say he can come in and major at both right away is probably a bit too much.
So fascinating, Booger, just to talk about it. I'm going to give a thumbs up nod to my man Roy Green, who's lurking back here behind the golf course, who played both and made the Pro Bowl in both sides of the ball, receiver and corner.
Wow.
All right. That's a perfect segue to go to the NFL. We've paid a lot of attention to Justin Fields and the Steelers' offense, but that defense is ranked first in the league in both fewest points and yards. You know about great defense. Does the Steelers' defense look great to you?
Not only do they look great, Mike, they are great. And it's amazing how the system can take the great pieces and make them even better. I think this system could make you and Frank even all-pro players maybe 20 years ago. But if you look at T.J. Watt, you look at Minka Fitzpatrick, you look at Cam Hayward, they got great players on all different levels. And the scheme, that Steeler defense, and I think the intangible of all the pride that they play with, because you go back years in the past when there was Jack Lambert and Joe Green and all the Steeler greats that have played. When you walk in that building and you put the black and gold on, there's a standard. And you hear Mike Tomlin talk about it all the time. The standard is the standard. And that's how they play. This is truly a really good defense, borderline great. You only become great when you can hold up some hardware at the end of the season. So let's see if this Steeler defense, led by T.J. Watt and then Justin Fields on the other side, can get this Steeler team to the promised land.
It's fun to watch so far, Booger. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Anytime, fellas. Always enjoy. Frank, glad you're moonlighting for Tony, Frank.
Every once in a while, Booger. When they'll have me.
We're going to take one last break, but still to come. Here's a name, Frank. Zion Williamson.
Wow.
Made a bold pronouncement.
Here's another name. Shohei puts up another silly number in his season full of them. I knew you were going to mention Roy Green. Didn't Darryl Green sometimes play a little offense as well?
Darryl would return punts, and maybe late in the game, you know, he could do a little something on any side of the ball. But Darryl was a corner, only one of the greatest corners ever. But my man. Time to get happy, people. Happy 77th birthday, Lucius Allen. Allen was one of select few players who won at least one high school state championship, college national championship, and NBA championship. After winning back-to-back high school state championships in Kansas, Allen matriculated at UCLA, where he won 2 NCAA titles with roommate Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor, back then, of course, including the unbeaten team of 1967. The two later won an NBA title together with the 71 Milwaukee Bucks, a team that also featured Hall of Famers Oscar Robertson and Bobby Dandridge. Last year, Allen told the Los Angeles News-Observer he is still, Frank, in his playing weight.
Underrated player. How about the news of a guy that he just missed by 1 year? Junior Bridgman became a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. It's not like he left the NBA with a ton of money. He opened up like 100 Wendy's and Chili's, made a small fortune, and he bought into the NBA. That's a great story.
Great news about Junior Bridgman, one of the great guys in NBA history. Happy anniversary, Prairie View A&M. On this day 26 years ago, the Panthers snapped a record 80-game losing streak, 80, with a 14-12 win over Langston. This was in 1998, and at the time, Prairie View had not won a game since 1989. During that stretch, the Panthers were outscored by nearly 2,800 points. In fact, in 1991, they allowed 56 points per game while scoring a grand total of 48. After ending the futility by beating Langston, then head coach Greg Johnson said, quote, "It was well overdue."
I remember how big of a story this was for all the wrong reasons, and I don't want to get myself in trouble. But what was Northwestern's losing streak once upon a time?
Too long. 30-something, 35. I was there.
I still want to get into that luxury suite.
Happy trails, Derrick Rose. This is very bittersweet for me and lots of us. The youngest MVP in NBA history announced on social media that he's retiring at 35 years old after 16 seasons in the NBA. D. Rose was the overall #1 pick of his hometown Chicago Bulls in 2008 and earned Rookie of the Year honors straight away. Just a year after winning the MVP, Rose suffered a catastrophic knee injury in Game 1 of a playoff series against Philly. undercutting the enormous promise we'd already seen. After the Bulls traded Derrick Rose to the Knicks in 2016, he became a less spectacular but steady contributor to them and 4 other teams. It's big news where I live.
100%. And we know all about Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas, great Chicago players. Derrick Rose was beloved.
Yep.
I got a chance to cover him when he played for the Knicks. When he went back to Chicago, I mean, he was treated like a king. Great guy. Like you said, too bad his career was cut, or should say
no errors
curtailed.
today. We got to run out. We're running out of show. We got to get through the big finish. The Sun eliminated the Fever. Lynx bumped the Mercury. Your thoughts quickly.
Caitlin Clark's season is over. Diana Taurasi's career probably over. Shohei has reached base. Listen to this. 21 of his last 28 plate appearances. Are you impressed?
I was more impressed by him going 14 for 19 entering the game the other night. That's crazy. Zion Williamson told The Athletic that his upcoming season is about straight vengeance. What does that mean?
I have no idea, but I'll have 82 games to prove it. Air Force and UNLV are expected to remain in the Mountain West Conference. That makes sense to you?
It's about the money. It always makes sense. Last one, college football tonight. 3-0 Army, 1-3 Temple. You smell an upset?
Nah, but if you ever get a chance, Mike, go up to West Point for a college football game. When you leave Arizona for a day. Unbelievable. We're out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Frank Isola.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, knuckleheads. And now, here's to Derrick Rose first.
Yeah.
Here's sports.
PTI.